Hey everyone, it's Linkalot or Monado Madlad here, seeing as I constantly change my name. But before I begin with this video, I just want to apologise for the lack of uploads lately. I've been quite preoccupied with a lot of schoolwork, but thankfully that's all done now, and it is actually the summer holidays for me, so hopefully I can go back to a schedule where I can upload more regularly. I mean, I'm not going to promise anything to you guys because I don't do YouTube that often, and I'm not really devoted to it, to be honest, but I will try and upload more regularly if I can. Today though, I'm going to kick off the channel again with this video where I'll talk about some of my hopes, my ideas, and my predictions even for Breath of the Wild 2, so hope you guys enjoy. Thank you. Over the past 2 years, us Zelda fans have been left with nothing more than a minute-long teaser when it comes to Breath of the Wild sequel. It is due to this lack of info, however, that I found myself, over the last few months particularly, fantasizing and wondering about things I'd like to see in the game. I've made maps, logos, and generally just come up with a ton of ideas, and in today's video I want to share them with you guys. Sit back and enjoy as I tell you guys about what I want to see in the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. One of the things I'm most excited to see in Breath of the Wild 2 is its title. I am really hoping that Nintendo will actually give it an original title, rather than simply calling it Breath of the Wild 2, or even some subsidiary of the Breath of the Wild name, like Breath of Evil or Breath of Darkness, which in my opinion sound fucking awful. But yeah, I tried to come up with some of my own names. They're not that great, but I've also came up with logos for them, which I will show you guys on screen right now, as you can see. I've made 3 logos. So, the first one, Monarch of Malice, as you may have guessed, it's in reference to Ganondorf himself. So, the trailer makes it look like he's going to be returning, so based on that, I thought this name would be very fitting. I tried to give it a very kind of hardcore, metal appearance. I don't think it's something Nintendo's necessarily going to go for, but personally I really like the way this one looks. The second one is in my opinion the weakest, which is Seal of Spirits. Now this is in reference to the seal itself. I mean, we don't know it's a seal, but in the trailer it looks like a seal that was holding Ganondorf down and sapping him of his power has broken. So I thought that maybe the main quest of the game could be revolving around restoring that seal and resealing Ganondorf. So if it was, I thought that that would be a cool name for it. So the third and final name I came up with, the most recent one, is Spectral Kingdom. Yes, I finally ditched the alliteration. So this title is in reference to an idea I had for Breath of the Wild 2's world. And I don't want to talk about it here because I've got a lot, and I mean a lot of ideas. I will dedicate a large segment of the video on later to it though. Trust me guys, it's worth the wait. I also think that a title referring to the spectral hand would be awesome, but truth be told, I've struggled to come up with one. I thought maybe something revolving the word gauntlet or hand or seal, but I couldn't really come up with anything very good. But ultimately though, all I'm hoping for is an original title, and I will be happy. And truthfully, the title is probably of very low importance when it comes to other aspects of the game. As long as the game's good, I think that's all that really matters here. As seen from its teaser, it seems that Breath of the Wild 2 will be taking a much darker approach from the first game, and truthfully, I'm all for it. I also would like if the game had a more complex and focused narrative than its first game, and one that actually progressed throughout the course, because Breath of the Wild felt very bare bones in the story department. With Ganondorf returning, however, it seems that Nintendo could make one of the biggest and best stories in a Zelda game ever. I truthfully believe that. It's a little cliche for sure, but allow me to tell you guys one idea I had for the game's narrative. After Ganondorf's awakening, many segments of Hyrule's surface rise skyward, exposing huge holes to a hidden, subterranean world beneath. Here, you will find what remains of the Zonai tribe, who were cast out after a curse was placed upon them by Ganondorf. And so, with nowhere else to turn to, they fled underground. Their story is layered and deep, but essentially, a long time ago, the tribe fought alongside the Gerudo King in combat, defeating any foes which dared cross their paths. But one day, for an unknown reason, perhaps it was money or fame, they aided the royal family in the construction of a divine seal that could stop him. In the teaser, we witness this seal being broken. Back to the past, in the final moments before Ganondorf was sealed, he placed a curse upon the tribe for betraying him, stating that they could never again set foot on Hylian soil. In the present day, the tribe will aid you in the enhancing of Link's new spectral hand, which will become instrumental in resealing the Gerudo King. It won't be easy, however. The man is furious like never before, and will summon an army of abominations to combat our hero. These new monsters are inspired by the early Guardian designs, and they will make the surface a terrifying place to be. He will also regenerate Astor from Age of Calamity, who will return as a sort of secondary antagonist, akin to Girahim from Skyward Sword. At the end of the game, you'll witness a legendary battle between Zelda, who transforms into the goddess Hylia, and Ganondorf, who transforms into the Demon King Demise. It is in this battle that you will play as Hylia herself, harnessing her divine powers and vanquishing the Gerudo King once and for all. If there is one thing Breath of the Wild 2 needs in order to be a success in my eyes, it's new opportunities for exploration in an open world environment. That is exactly why it's so concerning to me that Eiji Aonuma once stated that, for the sequel, they will revisit the same Hyrule from Breath of the Wild 1. In my eyes, there are two ways they could make revisiting the same land work. Either they add on large new areas, or they heavily alter what already exists. In my interpretation, they'll do both. In my Breath of the Wild 2, the main draw is the opportunity to explore a huge, subterranean kingdom hidden below Hyrule's surface, about 2/3 the size of it. In comparison to Hyrule, it boasts a variety of alien and otherworldly environments that contrast greatly with the approachable, familiar fantasy setting of the land above. This new land is full of secrets, boasting many branching cave networks that allow access to numerous hidden caverns, the biggest of which could be as big as the Great Plateau. On screen now, I will show a map I made depicting this very idea. As you can see, this new land is as varied as it gets. To the lower right are shimmering, dense rainforests on a whole nother scale from Faron. To the left, deserts that shine an alien blue colour at night. And to the right, spires of light which pierce the skies. This new land is constantly unpredictable, offering tons of beautiful yet strange vistas just begging to be explored. Before I go on, however, I would like to explain some of the elements of this map which might not be so clear. The blacked out sections are inaccessible, and before you start worrying about that, let me explain. These barriers create a sense of a world truly deep underground. They are the huge, inaccessible walls of the cavern which stretch to the roof and therefore to Hyrule's surface. What's unique about them, though, is that they still offer great opportunities for discovery in the form of cave networks which go into them. The networks and systems of caves are completely intertwined. They're incredibly easy to find yourself lost in. You may go from a narrow passageway you'll have to crouch down to traverse in, to a gargantuan, hollowed-out area housing a shrine, rewarding you for exploration. In terms of shrines, though, what's changed, I hear you asking? Are they still in the game? In my interpretation, a shrine-like series of mini dungeons will return in the form of what are now known as crypts. These crypts will all be significantly longer than your average shrine, as there is only half as many in the map. They will also differ much more greatly from each other, with many having completely different aesthetic styles based on what region they are in. Some will be enveloped by ice, while others have been completely overtaken by the strange fauna of the new world, obscuring any obvious solutions to puzzles and making them more challenging. They even have a completely different architectural style in each region. In fact, they are relics of the Zonai's distant past, housing monuments and challenges themed on their magical abilities, which Link must use his new Zonai hand to overcome. You'll find combat challenges, puzzles, parkour challenges, everything. But I can promise you guys that the shitty test of strength shrines and the shitty blessing shrines will not return. Every shrine will feel unique, or every crypt rather. Now, I want to offer a brief overview of the general feel, aesthetic and architectural style of each area and town. First, I will talk about what I know as Kekto Town and its surrounding deserts. These deserts differ wildly from that of Gerudo, being filled with architecture of a distinctly Aztec/Mayan style. The sand itself is of a much softer density, with bright, vibrant crystals protruding from its surface. They dot the landscape, lighting up at night. You'll also find colossal savanna-style trees which are of a brilliant teal colour. They're unique in their unbelievable size. Some are so big that there are tunnels leading into them, housing secret enemy encampments. The town itself is half submerged in the sand, and the architecture is incredibly intricate and complex, taking inspiration from ancient India and Aztec building styles. It houses the Kekno division, a subset of the Zonai tribe, as each village does. Each division differs from one another, having different ideals, beliefs, and thoughts of you, the hero. Some won't treat you so kindly. Ram Village is a smaller, more humble village located in the midst of the electric uplands region. This land is filled with long grass and plants of a bright yellow, almost golden colour, that seem to spark with electricity in stormy conditions. The rivers are completely electrified, sporting a muted yellow colour, meaning Link will need a specific set of armour in order to traverse the waters of this area. Underwater diving will also be a new feature in the game, making the opportunities for exploration all the more expansive. The village has a distinctly Japanese aesthetic, similar in style and scope to Kakariko, but varying. High Reach Village is another smaller settlement, this time located in the frigid northern regions of the subterranean kingdom. The surrounding environment is comprised of pillars, stacks, and entire fields of solid ice, as well as dense, frozen forests. These forests are unique, as at night they release an energy that generates a glowing mist which clouds over the area, obscuring the hero's vision. The village itself is of a somewhat Nordic style, so think the Barrows from Skyrim, which is one of my favourite games by the way. But they also retain the Asian motifs of the other settlements. Isbay Town is as inhospitable as it comes in this new land, being surrounded completely by ashen wastelands which release large quantities of black soot into the air, choking the player if they aren't prepared. It's clearly not an easy place to survive in. There are entire fields coated in a fine layer of ash and smoke, and a variety of decrepit monsters made of the stuff. The horizon here is dominated by gargantuan black ashen mountains, which almost reach the roof itself, offering magnificent views of the world if the player is daring enough to make the climb. Furthermore, the terrain is dominated by chasms, craters and pits, some of which contain a viscous, poisonous tar-like material. As for the village itself, most of the settlements have been built into the mountains themselves, creating a brief escape from the horrors of the outside area. There are temples, shops, chapels, and entire plantations built into the rock, in fact. Of the few buildings that are daring enough to protrude outside, they are constructed of an array of impermeable rocks and ramshackle metals, with no discernible style. Their only aim is to survive the harshness of the outside world. Next, we have Olen Village. Olen Village is likely the most familiar and comfortable setting in this new world. The surrounding environment is mostly gentle rolling hills amongst vast rice paddies. The architecture here of the buildings favours a very Vietnamese style. The division who live here are devoted to living their lives in peace. Asbok's Rest is a village which will be exceptionally easy to miss on your first playthrough, akin to Lurelin in Breath of the Wild 1. It's a completely hidden village found among the towering trees of the Lumina Woods region, at the bottom right of the map. Many of the pathways and buildings here are built around the trees themselves, creating a settlement akin to a series of connected tree houses. The residents, being the Asbok division, are completely devoted to the preservation and worshipping of nature, and so if they catch you harming it or picking materials or ingredients from the outside area, they will punish you. So think the Flower Lady from that one shrine, but on steroids. You need to be very careful here, because if they catch you, you could be in trouble. Finally, there is the largest settlement in the game, being the Zonai Refuge. It keeps the architectural style we're so familiar of the Zonai, as seen in the Farron region, but it also includes architectural styles from all of the other divisions, as it acts as an all-inclusive representation of the Zonai society. As such, the architecture is a mashed together of the various settlement styles, with a gargantuan tower at the centre. There are numerous streets easy to find yourself lost in, housing facilities and shops of all different kinds. It is located atop a large lake at the centre of the map, with 3 bridges connecting it to the outside world, and towering walls of rock protecting it on all sides. Right, that's it for all the new land in the game, but what about Hyrule itself? In my idea for the game, Hyrule has been completely altered. Its surface is in complete chaos. After the chunks of land rose into the sky, it triggered a series of earthquakes that split the land into several different segments, all of which are ravaged by chasms and ravines. The land itself is turned up at angles, making traversal exceedingly difficult if you're not beyond a certain point in the game. Furthermore, Ganondorf has initiated a wave of malice which covers much of the land, and brings with it terrifying new monsters which you must combat to progress. Once you beat the game, Hyrule will be restored to its former glory, alongside the ruins in the first game all being rebuilt. This is important, as it means players can explore both Hyrule and the world beneath it, and it gives them an incentive to complete the game. Another important thing Breath of the Wild 2 needs in order to feel distinct from the first game is new gameplay mechanics. My idea for new gameplay mechanics are numerous, but I think a good place to start, an idea that many people share, is to make Zelda playable. She would have many differences to Link in not only how she fights, but also how she runs, glides, and swims, among other things. These differences will become key in certain puzzles that require you to switch between the two in tandem, making use of their differences. In terms of combat, I imagine that, throughout the course of the game, Zelda will learn an array of powerful spells she can use in battle, as simply as Link can select a weapon from his inventory. There are spells to harness the elements involving fire, ice, and electricity. Spells to manipulate the world around you, such as dislodging rocks and boulders from a hillside to crush enemies, and spells to manipulate your opponent's minds even. As for Link, he too will be able to use magic in the form in the game, albeit in a very different way. His left hand is now that of the Zonai Gauntlet, giving him access to ancient Zonai magic and spells. It can let him do things such as draining the life force from enemies and using it as a weapon, gaining an enemy's abilities, or summoning armies of spirits to fight against him. On top of this, he can still use regular weapons like in the first game. Another thing I think is very important when it comes to gameplay in the Legend of Zelda series is dungeons. In my honest opinion, Breath of the Wild was by far the weakest game in the series in this aspect, with all 4 of the Divine Beasts feeling too short, too aesthetically similar, and far too easy. Instead, I think Nintendo should return to the much-loved traditional dungeon concept for the sequel. On my map, for example, which I'll show again here, you can see 3 of the main dungeons I came up with: Buried Necropolis, Sunken Citadel, and Highland Ruins. On top of this, I think it would be awesome if there were 1 or 2 more optional Divine Beasts, as I won't deny the concept is pretty cool, or even entire optional dungeons, giving players an incentive to re-explore Hyrule in particular, which is where most of the new optional dungeons will be located. I want to tell you guys an idea I had for a gameplay sequence in the game, so here it is. You are tasked with accessing and vanquishing the Sunken Citadel from an unbelievable evil. The problem: the temple is so deep underwater that you would drown long before reaching it, and the pressure would surely kill you. To work around this, you'd have to hijack a nearby Manta Ray Divine Beast that had gone rogue a long time ago, by activating 3 terminals inside it, before controlling it to the depths of the lake, where you can safely access the main dungeon. In general, I think it might also be cool if the sequel was just more creative with its gameplay, trying different things at times. For example, my idea of controlling a divine beast at one part of a game, akin to Age of Calamity, but with much better FPS. It provides a much more varied style of gameplay that will likely catch players off guard and keep them captivated, as they'll never know what's going to come next in the gameplay department. Here are some more ideas I had that I wasn't really sure where to put in this video, so I'll put them here in this list at the end. There is a recipe book added for cooking, making cooking previously cooked recipes significantly easier and less stressful. Whilst the durability system remains, it has been heavily altered. Weapons now take much longer to break, and they can also be repaired at certain shops in the new settlements. Introduction of a much more in-depth crafting system which allows you to create weapons and armour from resources you've collected in the world. You can now fish using proper fishing rods. In the larger bodies of water, there are now proper boats you can use for travel. They are much more in-depth and sophisticated than the rafts from the first game. There are now several new houses available to buy throughout the game, with one being in each village and some being buildable and completely customizable. There are many new animals and plants, such as crocodiles in the swampier regions, or an exotic looking lion species in the jungles of the underworld. As both Link and Zelda, you can customize your hair at designated hair shops throughout the world, even dyeing it different colours. And, most importantly, drumroll please, you can now pet the dogs. Judging by the size of this script, it's looking like this will probably be one of the longest videos I've ever made, so if you guys are watching this, I really do hope you enjoyed. I've wanted to make this video for a long time, but I always put it off because I knew how long it would take. But I just wanted to empty my head of some of the ideas for Breath of the Wild 2 that have built up, and I hope you guys got some enjoyment out of it. I also want to preface that this is in no way what I'm expecting, but oh man, if even just a few of these ideas became a reality in this game, I would be absolutely overjoyed. Hopefully, we'll find out how right I am at E3 in a few weeks. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. I also want to just inform you guys that I am also going to be working on an E3 predictions video, so we can see how well I did when E3 arrives. I know I did a video predicting the most recent Direct, and that did not go well at all. If you look back on that, I said I was like 90% sure or something we'd get Breath of the Wild 2 news, and that did not happen. And I'm saying that again for E3, so hopefully I am right this time, but we will see. I am more confident this time. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!